The Saudi Personal Data Protection Law gives individuals rights to their personal data, requires companies to adopt a privacy policy, notify individuals of their rights, and gives individuals the right to make claims against companies that violate the personal data privacy law. The rights individuals have to their personal data include knowing the purposes for collecting their personal data, getting access to and copies of their personal data, correcting, completing, or updating it, and destroying their personal data when it is no longer needed. The privacy policy that companies must adopt needs to explain why personal data is collected, the personal data collected, and how it is collected and processed. It must also explain the rights of personal data owners and how they can exercise their rights. The notice that companies will have to provide before collecting personal data must also explain why personal data is collected, which personal data is mandatory or optional, who is collecting it, and who the personal data will be shared with. To comply with the rights of personal data owners and the requirements of the privacy policy and notice, companies in Saudi Arabia must first define and explain why they collect personal data. The purposes for collecting personal data must be lawful and directly related to the purposes and objectives of the company. Examples of valid purposes can include recruitment and hiring, employee administration, managing supplier relationships, engaging in public relation activities, and cybersecurity purposes. To provide free copies of personal data in compliance with personal data owner rights, companies need to understand how personal data is collected and where it is in their systems. They will also need to develop procedures to allow individuals to correct, update, and delete their personal data or otherwise stop its processing upon request. At a minimum, companies should identify internal personnel or functions responsible for receiving and processing requests from personal data owners. Companies that can inform personal data owners of their rights and allow the exercise of those rights will be able to comply with the Personal Data Protection Law and avoid claims for compensation from the personal data owners. EMME, supporting emerging markets and the Middle East.